How Yellowstone's Dutton family came from Sons of Anarchy explained. Taylor Sheridan's Neowestern drama Yellowstone helped to revitalize the Western genre in television. But it has its roots in another Neowestern that isn't always recognized as such, Sons of Anarchy. Starring Kevin Costner and a talented ensemble cast, Yellowstone became a runaway success thanks to its potent mix of drama, action, and an intoxicating Western setting. While the cowboys, rural setting, and gunfights certainly conjure classic Western vibes, the political maneuvering and corporate espionage ring of more modern dramatic fare, which is part of why Yellowstone's audience demographics are so varied and diverse. While Yellowstone has its own trademark aesthetic and lingo, creator Taylor Sheridan does draw on some of the best TV dramas of the last 30 years, which is a credit to him as a showrunner. The parallels between Yellowstone and FX's crime drama Sons of Anarchy, for example, are plentiful. The similarities are so abundant that Yellowstone has been referred to as Sons of Anarchy on horses in certain circles of the internet. Taylor Sheridan is one of TV's most talented and unique dramatic writers, to be sure, and the influence of Sons of Anarchy on Yellowstone is clear. Years before he put pen to paper on Yellowstone, Taylor Sheridan was a working TV actor who had a number of smaller roles to his name before Sons of Anarchy debuted in 2008. The award-winning family drama was set against the backdrop of an oftentimes violent motorcycle club's struggle to accumulate power, wealth, freedom, and revenge, although not necessarily in that order. Taylor Sheridan portrayed Deputy Sheriff David Hale for the first 3 seasons of the show, the straight-edge enforcer of the law and frenemy of the Sons of Anarchy motorcycle club. Sheridan's time in the main cast came to an end when his character was unceremoniously killed in a drive-by, which was reportedly forced as a result of a salary dispute, which saw Sheridan leave the show. Although SOA's creator, Kurt Sutter, has said Hale was killed because Sheridan wanted to pursue another project. While it was never directly addressed by Sheridan, many Yellowstone fans acknowledge that the Season 3 episode, Going Back to Cali, which sees John Dutton and the Yellowstone Cowboys tangle with a biker gang from California, was a reference to Sheridan's bitter exit from Sons of Anarchy. In addition to the biker call-out in Yellowstone, there are a few other notable crossovers between the two shows. For example, Sheridan has used a few cast members from Sons of Anarchy in the ever-expanding cast of the growing Yellowstone universe. One of the most prominent is Korianka Kilcher, the New World, who starred in Yellowstone as the vengeful litigator and business consultant, Angela Blue Thunder, more than a decade after playing Chip's daughter, Carrie Ann Telford, in Season 3 of Sons of Anarchy. Screen legend Robert Patrick, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, makes appearances in both Sons of Anarchy and the Yellowstone spin-off 1923. He plays the president of the Sons of Anarchy San Bernardino chapter, Le Packer, and in 1923 Patrick portrays Sheriff William McDowell. LaMonica Garrett also features in both universes. He somewhat ironically plays David Hale's replacement, Deputy Sheriff Kane, in Sons of Anarchy, while he played Pinkerton Agent Thomas in Yellowstone's spin-off, 1883. To most, Sons of Anarchy is considered a crime drama, more in line with gangster movies and television than a Western. However, in exploring the themes of the show, many of the hallmarks of a Western emerge. The members of SAMCRO are considered outlaws, a concept born straight out of Old West, and their rebellion against or subversion of the law is a consistent element of the group's activities. Their brand of justice often falls outside the law, and certainly fits the definition of the frontier justice of the West, where vengeance was often carried out on a personal level. Most importantly, Sons of Anarchy is framed around the themes of individualism and personal freedom, with the club working to impede the march of progress and change in their hometown. Therein lies its greatest tie to Yellowstone, and why both shows can and should be considered neo-westerns with a genuine overlap in genre. John Dutton and his family work to keep the ranch pristine and preserve their way of life, just as the Sons of Anarchy do. Whether Taylor Sheridan distinctly intended it to or not, Yellowstone is a spiritual successor to Sons of Anarchy in theme if not setting. The sprawling, rugged landscapes of Montana and the violent, leather-clad streets of charming California may seem worlds apart. However, a closer look at the Dutton family in Yellowstone and the outlaw motorcycle club of Sons of Anarchy reveals surprising parallels, suggesting that the two worlds may not be so different after all. Both series are steeped in themes of loyalty, power, and the cost of maintaining one's legacy. But could the origins of the Dutton dynasty trace back to the rebellion and anarchy of the Sons of Anarchy? Let's delve into the theory that Yellowstone's iconic Dutton family owes its dramatic genesis to the chaotic world of SAMCRO. ###the seeds of chaos. Sons of Anarchy revolves around Jackson "Jax" Teller and his struggle to balance the violent nature of his motorcycle club with his desire for a better life for his family. Yellowstone's patriarch John Dutton faces a similar struggle, keeping his sprawling ranch intact while navigating threats from outside forces, including corporations, the government, and even his own children. In many ways, Jax and John are mirror images of one another, grappling with the weight of their respective legacies. The theory begins with the idea that John Dutton's ancestors were members of a motorcycle club, possibly even one inspired by or connected to the Sons of Anarchy. Consider the timeline. Sons of Anarchy's events take place in the late 2000s and early 2010s, while Yellowstone is set in the modern day. This gap leaves room for a generational shift. What if one of Jax's children, disillusioned with the violence and chaos of their father's world, sought a fresh start in the wilderness of Montana? The Dutton lineage could have stemmed from someone breaking free from the outlaw life, choosing to forge a new path, but retaining the core values of loyalty and fierce protection that defined SAMCRO. ###a legacy of violence. The Duttons and SAMCRO both operate under a moral code that justifies extreme violence in the name of family and territory. The Sons defend charming with their lives, while the Duttons will stop at nothing to protect their Yellowstone ranch. This shared philosophy hints at a common origin. Perhaps an original Dutton, a grandchild or even great-grandchild of Jax Teller, inherited this propensity for ruthless protection. John Dutton often remarks that everything he does is for his children and the survival of the ranch. This echoes Jax's ultimate sacrifice in Sons of Anarchy, where he gives his life to ensure a better future for his sons. Could John's relentless dedication to his family's land be a reflection of stories passed down about a forebear who fought and died for his own family's survival? ###, the outlaw spirit in the Dutton DNA. Yellowstone's Beth Dutton exudes the kind of sharp wit and unapologetic ferocity that would make her a natural fit in SAMCRO. Her ability to manipulate, her love of power, and her willingness to go to any length to protect her family are traits that could easily be traced back to a Teller ancestor. Similarly, Case Dutton's torn loyalties and struggle to reconcile his violent past with his desire for peace mirror Jax Teller's internal conflict. Both men are warriors at heart, bound by their sense of duty but yearning for something more. Even Jamie Dutton's tragic arc, feeling like an outsider within his own family, parallels the story of Clay Morrow, who, despite being a central figure in SAMCRO, was often at odds with those he considered his own. The Dutton family's dysfunction and betrayals could stem from a similar fractured dynamic that plagued the Sons of Anarchy, suggesting that the scars of Sam0's lifestyle left a lasting mark on future generations. ###The Montana Connection. Geographically, the move from California to Montana makes sense for a family looking to escape the chaos of outlaw life. Montana's wide open spaces and relative isolation offer a stark contrast to the gritty, claustrophobic streets of Charming. A Teller descendant seeking a clean slate might see the untamed land as an opportunity to create a legacy untainted by the sins of the past. This journey from outlaw to rancher mirrors the American frontier spirit, trading one kind of freedom for another, more sustainable form. In Sons of Anarchy, Gemma Teller Morrow often acted as the matriarchal glue holding the club together. Her fierce loyalty to family and willingness to commit heinous acts in their name could have been traits passed down through generations, eventually influencing John Dutton's own leadership style. Perhaps it was Gemma's stories, or the whispered legends of her exploits, that inspired a young Dutton to carve out his own empire in the Wild West.